Welcome, welcome, welcome to our presentation today. This is our free webinar for our November community event. We are hosting it here today on November the 19th, 2025. My name is Dr. Marybeth Heather. I'm a counselor in Maryland, and this is my clinical intern, Pearl. We
Hello.
work at Allow Health, which is a virtual group practice based out of Maryland. I am going to let Pearl take the lead and welcome to our attendees.
All right, awesome. Let me just get my screen up here and we will get going. All right. How does that look for you on your end? Can you see that okay? Okay, all right, cool.
I would just say it's on the internet, so you can see like the web
It wouldn't go off, but that's okay. It'll still be full screen. I couldn't get it off of the tab for some reason, but that's all right.
Okay.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about trauma, the stories we carry, and understanding trauma's impact. I'll go through our agenda. We're going to be talking about what trauma is, a little bit about what it isn't as well, the different types of trauma. There's a few different types of trauma under the trauma bucket. We're going to be talking about how trauma affects not only our brain, but also our body. Go through common reactions to trauma, whether that be emotional reactions or cognitive reactions or behavioral reactions. We'll get into that later on. We'll be talking about trauma's effect later in life and how that can affect our relationships and our self-identity. And then eventually we'll be talking about healing and next steps and how to work through trauma and in a way, learn from the stories we carry and reinvent our stories for the future. So some of our learning objectives for today, we will be able to identify what trauma is. We'll be able to describe the different types of trauma and how they are different from each other. We'll be able to describe how trauma affects both the brain and the body, as I touched on before. We'll recognize different paths to healing and also be able to utilize skills and resources to better cope with trauma in the future. But before we get into all that, we'll do some introductions. My name is Pearl Polito, and I am a clinical intern here at Allow Health. Me and Dr. Heather both included some pictures here from little parts of our lives. I included a picture of me recently at the National Mall because I really like to go there and go to all the museums with my friends. I included my two dogs here, Shadow and Louie, in front of our lovely Christmas tree, getting ready for the holidays. I'm also a current master's student about to graduate from Northwestern University in the spring. So that's just a picture of me on the campus when I was first starting. Another fun thing about me, I love to knit. So this picture back here is a sweater I was working on not too long ago. And what else did I include here? Oh, and I spend a lot of time in Maui, Hawaii. I have family that lives there. And so this is a fun picture from a recent trip that I took with my mom and aunt. And we are up on top of a 10,000-foot volcano above the clouds. And I really love those pictures. So I will hand it over to Dr. Heather to introduce herself and explain her pictures a little bit.
Yes, hello. So this is a picture here of Pearl and I when we went to Advocacy Day on Federal Hill this fall. It was really cool with the American Counseling Association where we spoke to different parts of Congress and the Senate and their offices about advocacy for mental health needs. Next to us is my dog Murphy resting, getting his snuggles on. Then I have a wreath that I recently made for Christmas because I like to craft a little bit. We have my cat Mel and my dog Murphy with my husband there getting a little hugs and kisses. And then the two pictures here on the end, I went to the last day of Six Flags. I remember going to it when it was Wild World when I was a little kid. So I went, and that is one of the rides that I rode. And by the way, it was so tall. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, I'm getting older. Those high, really high, and they swing you around. And then the last picture here on the bottom is that I went to an air show because we serve the veterans population, and it was an air show that they had earlier this year. So that's a heart from the air show, which was always a cool little thing that they can do.
Yeah, I know.
Airplanes.
That's so wild they can do that, right? Like, how do they put that out when they're in the sky?
I don't know.
Lovely, lovely. All right, so jumping back into our content here. So what is trauma? So trauma isn't just about what's happened to you. It's a lot about what's happening inside of you too when a traumatic event happens. So trauma occurs when we experience something that completely overwhelms our ability to cope. It can come from a single event. It can come from repeated stress. It can come from something that happened a long time ago, or something that happened that has lasted a long time. And we'll get into those. Those are different types of trauma that on the next slide we'll talk about. And trauma is about your experience. It's not necessarily about the type of event. So, I think it's interesting because two people can go through the same event and have very different reactions. So that's kind of what we mean by that point of like, it's really about your experience of going through something and how your mind, your body is reacting to that event. Another important reminder with trauma is that, however you are reacting to trauma, you are not overreacting. Your mind and body are responding in a way that is best to take care of you in that situation. It's your mind and body are trying to help you survive and get out of something that is frightening and stressful and traumatic. So again, different people have different reactions to trauma, which is really important to remember. So touched on here a little bit, but the different types of trauma. So what we call acute trauma, this is a single event. So a car accident, an assault, a sudden loss of a loved one. This is what we would call acute trauma. Chronic trauma is an experience that's ongoing. So ongoing abuse or neglect or even like long-term stress would be called chronic trauma. And then there's something called complex trauma as well. So this is trauma that happens really early in life or repeatedly in different relationships. And this can be, a really difficult type of trauma because it often affects our identity, our trust, and our safety in sometimes deeper ways than other types of trauma. So how does trauma affect the brain and body? So first, it's important to know that our brain has two main modes. So our brain has a survival brain mode, which is kind of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, right? And then we have our thinking brain. So that's our planning, our reasoning, and our problem solving. And so what happens during a trauma is our survival brain takes over to protect us. The thinking brain kind of goes into an offline mode. So we're really in that survival mode when we are going through a trauma. And so after trauma, it can be kind of hard for that survival brain to give back some space to that thinking brain. So our brain often stays on high alert. And your body may be reacting as if you were still in danger in the present, even though the danger is gone at this point. But since you're still in that survival brain mode, your body is also reacting and saying like, oh, I must be in danger if my brain is in survival mode. Like I must have to get out of this situation. So a lot of those things can linger from being in that survival mode. That can be, really difficult to deal with and can be really harmful. Some other common effects that trauma can have on the brain and body because of the survival brain kind of taking over. Difficulty concentrating, sleep problems, feeling really jumpy or tense, maybe like you're always on edge and not really, always kind of wondering what's coming next. A lot of emotional ups and downs. And then a big one is feeling really disconnected or numb. Like you might just feel nothing at all. and just kind of burnt out from being in that survival mode for so long.
What's difficult, right, Pearl, is that you might feel like, oh, I'm just anxious, right? Or I just feel kind of sad, or you might use the word blue. However, it could really be those things, all those little T traumas, right?
Yeah.
Those little slights that are building up to maybe a more long-term trauma experience that we just don't realize.
Yeah.
Like even small things, getting cut in line when we're a kid. Right? I know it sounds silly, but if that happens several times in a month, you can start to feel some type of way about it.
Yeah.
If somebody got in line from you when you're grocery shopping, you're unknowingly connecting those facts together. And your body gets tense, you feel a little bit more emotional. And it's connected to all these things from the past. And then you're having trouble sleeping. It's just very difficult.
Yeah, it can be very difficult. And it's, these reactions are our body, still trying to keep us safe from that trauma.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's
like, I'm going to take you in and give you a hug, right? And calm you down.
Right? But
it might be stressing you out more than
you're still in that survival mode without really realizing it, which is so interesting, right? But it's the truth of what's happening, which can be really, really hard being in that mode for so long. Some other common reactions to trauma, first, emotional reactions. Again, anxiety, we talked about that. Sadness, a lot of fear. There can be a lot of guilt, too. I think that can be a really big one when it comes to trauma. Anger, and then, again, feeling numb or shut down, feeling really disconnected from yourself, from your body, from others in your life. I think isolation can be, really prevalent here with someone who's going through a trauma. There can be physical reactions as well, as we know. That can be anything from headaches to digestion or other stomach issues, fatigue, muscle tension, or pain. And I think these are, really interesting to kind of touch on because it's, we can think it's completely something else when it's physical, right? And not related to something that's going on up here. But it's our brains are extremely powerful. And a lot of the times these physical symptoms can be relieved by working through what's going on up here and what's been happening from the past.
I often hear when I think of what people say is they're like stuck, right? So you feel stuck, like you can't make a different decision, or like, oh, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
Right? You can always change who you are.
Yes.
Right? That's like one thing that's constant in life is change. We're all changing through seasons, changing as we get older, changing jobs, changing friendships.
Yeah.
Change is good.
It's a really important thing to remember that we are always capable of evolving or adapting. Just because we go through a trauma and we are having these reactions to something does not mean that you will be feeling that the rest of your life. Like you are capable of changing that. And it's sometimes a really hard and difficult road, but it's possible to get there. Some behavioral reactions. Avoiding reminders of the past, kind of pushing those things away. People pleasing, staying on guard, again, like that being really watchful and vigilant, overly vigilant. Overworking, I think this can be a really big one too, like just kind of wanting to distract from something that's happening and pushing all of your energy into your work can, be really exhausting, right? And then on the opposite of that, isolation, like just completely shutting out from everything can also happen. And then in the cognitive bucket, trouble making decisions, sometimes memory lapses, especially from the past of like around times that trauma has happened, not, having the ability to remember a lot of the details. And then also just having negative beliefs, not only around yourself, but around others, and even the world in general, just having a negative outlook on the world can be really common when it comes to healing from trauma.
For sure, Pearl. And when you think about those behavioral pieces, everything you mentioned falls in line with those fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. So are you arguing with people? Are you just trying to tell them whatever they want to hear to get out of the room, right? Or get out of the space? Are you feeling like you're just not safe all the time?
Yeah.
You know, are you frozen and like speechless?
Yeah.
You know, and the memory loss and cognitive troubles are a big sign, right? Like if you don't remember like large gaps of your life, it's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, that's a really good point too.
Where did it go? Right? And those negative beliefs that will keep you going down that same pathway. Think about every time you have a negative thought, you're widening the street.
Yeah.
In your brain. So you're widening that pathway, and then it's just way easier to flow that way. Like I can have a bad thought way easier than all the good ones. Yeah. It takes practice.
It does take practice and time, yeah. And I think that's a really good point about like the memory lapses. I think, you know, many people are very aware of the trauma that they have gone through, but then sometimes, you know, people are very unaware and have those memory lapses and are like, wow, I didn't even realize I had gone through that because it was difficult for me to remember. And I was, you know, kind of blocking that out, which can be really interesting, right?
And trauma doesn't have to be if you directly experienced it, right? You can witness it and feel trauma. You can have vicarious trauma. You could be working remote, assisting an event that might cause trauma onto you, right? I often see that with our military folks. Like if someone is participating and supporting a project, doesn't mean they were live there, but they still experienced what's happening. They may have been on a feed, they may have been part of the support afterwards. That's still traumatic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know that's a really good point too. You know, we can still feel the effects of something, an event, even if it's not directly happening to us, right? The trauma's impact later in life. Here I focused mostly on our relationships, our emotions, and our connection to our identity, and then our body and nervous system. So with relationships, you know, going through trauma can make it quite difficult to trust others. We often can feel like we can often feel a fear of being abandoned or hurt, and struggle with boundaries. But I think it's important to just clarify here that, you know, these are things that can be adapted and evolved, right? Like if we are in a situation where we feel like we are either anxiously or avoidantly attached to partners or loved ones or family or friends, you know, that's capable to change. You know, we are, you know, able to seek out those secure attachments and allow ourselves to learn how to be securely attached. So that's important to remember there. With our emotions and our identity, often can feel low self-esteem, feeling not good enough. Again, a lot of shame and guilt. I mentioned that before. And self-blame. You know, a lot of times with certain traumas, you know, individuals can feel like they were the cause of it.
It's my fault.
It's my fault. Yeah. It can be really, really difficult to change that perspective, but it takes time and practice. It takes a lot of practice. And
it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, it's ongoing. It really is. Yeah. It's
you
not
don't just learn it and then it's like good.
Yeah.
It's ongoing.
Yeah. With the body and nervous system, we may have triggers that seem small to us. And what I meant by that is that, you know, you may become triggered by something that you feel like, oh, that shouldn't have bothered me. Like, why was that such a big deal for me? Like, say, for instance, you know, you were in a really tragic and difficult car accident, and there was a moment where you were driving and someone beeped at you and it caused you to have a really intense panic reaction. That can feel like small and say like, oh, well, I shouldn't have reacted like that, or I shouldn't have, that shouldn't have triggered me so much. But that's how our bodies and nervous systems react sometimes when we've been through something like that, like a really intense car accident. So those things might come up in your life, and it's just, it's important to, try better at accepting that happening and allowing that to come in and say, okay, this happened, rather than, allowing judgment on ourselves for feeling, that trigger coming on. Overreacting or shutting down, or feeling like we're overreacting. And then dissociating, feeling disconnected from your body. Again, I think dissociation can be really major here, especially later on in life.
Dissociation might feel like daydreaming, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
You kind of just feel like you're spacing out. And you're like, oh, where was I? Or it can be like you having a whole day and what did I do today?
Yeah.
Like maybe you really were engaged in the moment. So dissociation can look very, very different in everybody. Like extreme cases, you don't know who you are, right? Most people, it's very, very subtle and difficult to kind of see whether it might be more, oftentimes people go to like ADHD. Oh, I just don't have good attention.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's might be all those little traumas just having a little tea party behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping you distracted.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And you're right that dissociation can look so different for so many people. And I think it comes in so many ways that we don't even think of that as dissociation. Right. Now on to healing from trauma. Something that I wanted to include here is that healing does not mean forgetting the past. It's not trying to take a negative situation and switching, okay, we're going to think totally positive about this. That's not what we're trying to do as we help people heal through trauma. What healing does mean is being able to feel safer in your body, being able to choose how you respond and how you react to things, and not feeling like your body or your survival brain is taking over, right? Building a life that feels meaningful to you and breaking old patterns and creating new ones. I included some different paths to healing here as well. So under therapy approaches, there are many different trauma-focused therapies out there. There's CPT, which stands for cognitive processing therapy. There's EMDR, IFS, and somatic therapy as well. EMDR, I'm totally blanking on the word that EMDR stands for. Dr. Heather, can you help me with that?
So with EMDR, I like to think about it that it's all about the rapid eye movement desensitization. So when we think about that, it's going to be about getting into your unconscious mind by connecting with your eye movements. Sometimes they're going to use like a breathing technique, like a tapping on you. Other times they're actually going to put like a ball in front of you, like digitally, or think about old school, like hypnotist kind of things. They're going to sway it in front of you. And that's going to get you into a stage where you are when you're usually sleeping, but you're awake. And it's not like hypnotism. They're not going to make you do anything. Just to be clear.
It can be really powerful for people. I've heard many, great stories that come out of EMDR.
It's one of those things that'll surprise you. I will say it's not, it is going to make you relive it. And they're not all trauma-informed approaches make you relive events. So just keep that in mind when you're researching and determining which kind of trauma approach you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with CPT too, cognitive processing therapy, I've heard a lot of really great outcomes from that as well. It focuses a lot on, what has happened, what was a traumatic event, and then what are the person's beliefs around that event, and how is that affecting their emotions and their behaviors around themselves, around others, and trying to find these like stuck points for people that are, creating these maladaptive or unhelpful beliefs around the event, and trying to kind of alter how they, tell their story and live their story. So that's been really great too. Um, Body-based healing, grounding exercises, which we go into a little bit more later on, gentle movement as well, like yoga, walking, and different breath work, which we have some options for breathing exercises as well later on. Connection, I mean, really just make sure that we're involving ourselves in safe and supportive relationships, whether that mean romantic relationships or friendships or family relationships, making sure that we feel safe, supported in those as well. And then also with different communities, groups, and social connections, broadening our reach there and trying to, allow ourselves to get out into the world and meet people that, make us feel that safety and support. And then self-care as well, making sure that we're resting, making sure we have a good and healthy routine for ourselves. Creativity, honoring our creativity in whatever way that means to you, and adopting healthy coping skills in things that we like to do, whether that be like reading or journaling, meditation, mindfulness exercises can be really helpful. So here we had some everyday tools for regulation. First had some grounding exercises that can be really helpful when we're feeling triggered by a traumatic event. The 5-4-3-2-1 sensory grounding is a really great exercise. You take a moment to identify 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, and 2 things you can smell, and then 1 thing you can taste. Did I get that right? I think I got those right. I'm like, which order?
You got it right. You got it right.
Another one can just be naming objects around you, bringing yourself back to the present. And that's really the purpose of all of these here, is trying to bring you back to the here and now, back to the present. Picking your favorite color and finding 5 objects of that color in the room to just kind of focus you to the place and time that you're in. Also, body scans are really great and can be a really helpful tool. There's a lot of different videos online that can walk you through a body scan. Some people like to walk themselves through it just in a simple meditation, and you start by focusing either at your feet or your head and moving down slowly while you're naturally breathing and making sure you're focusing on each part of your body as you go either up or down through the scan. And seeing if you noticing any tension, noticing any other feelings. If you are holding tension, where is the tension being held? And I think the purpose of a body scan is really to just acknowledge and not judge or feel pressure to change anything. It's really just to acknowledge how we're feeling in that moment and bring us back to the present.
And any of these particular grounding exercises, I like to think of them all as kind of like I Spy. So if you used to play like I Spy in the car with your family, it's the same kind of thing. So are you looking for a color or an object? Are you I Spying or being curious about your body and how your body is showing up? So again, everything is about getting out of the future, getting away from whatever in the past is coming at you. And like, what is in your immediate surroundings and in your immediate body?
Yeah.
So once you can get back into the present, the worries about the future, the fears or the things that are giving us grief from the past will start to fade away a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Next, I included some breathing exercises that can be really helpful. The first is very simple, just slow belly breathing. That doesn't involve any counting. It's really just trying to focus on breathing into your stomach and less into your chest. And sometimes it can be even helpful to put your hands on your stomach and feel your belly expanding and going down as well as you inhale and exhale. Square breathing can be a really great exercise. How that works is you inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and hold for 4 counts. And it creates like this breathing box. And again, there's a lot of different videos or tools on either YouTube or the different like Calm or Headspace might have some really great tools for like square breathing. To have like a more guided version, but you can also guide yourself through it as well. Sometimes people incorporate like tapping to kind of keep count, and that can be really helpful. 4-7-8 breath is very similar. You inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. And then do it all again. And so that one can feel, I think, sometimes a little challenging to hold your breath for that long.
Right.
That one takes a lot of practice, I think, which is okay. Like, it's okay if you do that for the first time and you're like, I can't hold my breath for 7 seconds, but that's okay.
Like, everybody can, right, Pearl? Everybody can, but it feels awkward.
It does. Yeah, it does feel awkward.
But all of these are all about getting the oxygen to your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you may feel a little bit lightheaded afterwards. You may feel nothing. Mm-hmm. So the idea is to figure out how to get rid of those trauma responses we spoke about earlier, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, by sending that oxygen to your brain. Say, hey, I'm safe. It's okay to walk forward or move forward in whatever activity you're doing.
Yes.
And get your system kind of rechecked and recalibrated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Some body-based exercises, stretching or yoga can be really great. Yoga is really great in connecting your body and your mind as you're focusing on being in the moment. You're focusing on breathing while you're focusing on being in certain poses and stretches. So that can be really grounding for folks. Some other mindful movement of going on walks, going on a nice hike if that's something you enjoy. Or other exercises that are helpful to you. You know, it doesn't have to be walking. Gentle tapping on arms or chest. What I did before here, those are called butterfly breathing. And so that's just kind of lightly tapping. I'm crossing my arms here like that. And then the tip skill, this is a DBT skill that I thought was really important to include here. That can be really helpful with regulating ourselves when we're feeling really intense emotions. And it stands for temperature, intense exercise, paced breathing, and progressive muscle relaxation. So temperature, like by what that means is, if, sometimes putting your face into like an ice cold bucket of water can be really helpful to just kind of center ourselves and bring ourselves back. Intense exercise, getting your heart rate really high up. Paced breathing, like what we talked about before, 4-count breath or 4-7-8, and progressive muscle relaxation. That involves, tightening our muscles and then letting them go, tightening them again, letting them go. Whatever feels more comfortable to you. Again, like not every skill is going to work for everyone. I think, it's important to kind of focus on what works for you and try things out that you think might work for you. And if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Yeah, and create like a running list, because guess what? Something that works on Monday might not work on Wednesday.
That's true. Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, that's when you can kind of pivot and see if something else works, right? Mm-hmm. It's not always going to be 100% of the time something works. Think about anything that can get you to that 1 to 10% of change, so you can say, okay, I'm recalibrating. I am moving in the direction that I want to go and away from wherever the direction is you don't want to go.
Yes.
It's not going to be that quick fix, immediacy where, whew, it's wonderful right now, right?
Yeah. Again, practice. Takes practice.
Practice.
Yeah, yeah. I know sometimes that's hard to wrap ourselves around that it does take practice, but it does. It really truly does. And then finally, a couple mindfulness techniques, simple of just noticing things that you're appreciating throughout the day, and just taking note of that. And then checking in with your body and mind without judgment. Again, like similar to like what I talked about with the body scan, just acknowledging, ways that you're feeling throughout the day and not trying to change them, just trying to accept, how you're feeling and allowing that to exist and have space and, letting that go. I think, sometimes when we feel anxiety, our first instinct is to push it away as fast as we can. But I think sometimes when we accept the anxiety and welcome it in, that's when it tends to go run and hide. When we don't try and change it, we're just trying to like, okay, the symptoms are here. I'm feeling anxious. Come on in. Let's see what this means. And then sometimes that can really help regulate ourselves. And then finally, we included some resources here that are trauma focused for more support and learning. The National Center for PTSD has a lot of great resources for folks, as well as the Trauma Foundation. These are both really great resources online that you can access. The Body Keeps the Score is a really great book that has been recommended many times, that is about trauma and how, we kind of hold that in our bodies and hold that within our life as we go. And then I wanted to include some helpful crisis hotlines here as well. The 988 number is the National Lifeline for mental health emergencies. And then I also included some Maryland-specific ones here, which are, there's the Maryland Crisis Hotline, which is all of Maryland, and then there's even some different county crisis response teams that have different numbers here as well for Baltimore, Howard, and Anne Arundel as well, county. And then we have the Transgender Lifeline as well down there to include as well. And then I think that is about it for our presentation. I included our contact information here. Please feel free to email or call. We would love to hear any questions that anyone has. And if you're looking for support or looking for support for a loved one, please feel free to reach out and we will do what we can to support them on their healing journey as well.
Thanks, Pearl. Yeah, definitely reach out if you need anything. I know we have our one attendee. Do we have any questions or anything as we are wrapping up, or any feedback before we finish? Oh, we got a thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I think you can take the contact us down. Glad you found it helpful. And that is it for our session today. And what we will do is just be virtual here if you need us. Again, just reach out at hello@allow-health.net. You can follow us on YouTube and other social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram that we post on regularly if you want some other tips. And we'll be around. So let us know if you need something. Keep in mind that we do even offer some pro bono sessions through the Pro Bono Counseling Project in Maryland. So you can reach out to them or Open Path as well if you need something sliding scale outside of insurance. So we are here. We specialize in DBT and helping people through all of these trauma and identity, anxiety, depression, that stuckness that is happening around the world, because the world is a wild place these days.
It truly is.
Things are happening. Right? Things are always happening. All right, well, that's it for us. So thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right.